We've come a long way in 100 years. When once the woman's place was in the home or in the factory, nowadays we have female bosses and board directors, but not enough.
I'm Minnie Mole, I'm the Joint Chief Executive of the East of England Co-op.
After a career in the male-dominated world of advertising, Minnie now heads up our region's largest independent food store.
At the root of a lot of the issues for women are a lot of unconscious bias. There's an enormous amount, a real bedrock of society and unconscious bias that men and women get into and they just don't think they're doing. So I think that's one of the fundamental issues that faces women in general and in business. I think then what happens in business, the key word is flexibility, or more to the point, lack of flexibility.
And the reason women need more flexibility is simple. They are the child bearers and often child rearers of society. Minnie herself is the mother of twin girls.
I had one maternity leave, and when I watched other friends have a second maternity leave, or indeed a third maternity leave, if they're not getting the support and the flexibility and they are out of the business 3 times, I think that gives them even more challenge. And in a way, the fact that I had one maternity leave made it slightly easier for me to get traction and momentum in my career.
Statutory maternity leave is 52 weeks, made up of 26 weeks of ordinary maternity leave, then an additional 26 weeks. This is paid for up to 39 weeks. You get 90% of your average weekly earnings before tax for the first 6 weeks and £140.98 or 90% of your average weekly earnings, whichever is lower, for the next 33.
We've not really cracked the maternity problem, I think, in organisations. I think there's some really good practice starting to be seen. We're in a much better situation than some of our, some other countries where we don't have the same maternity leave. But there's still a real problem with jobs that require women to be very present, and that actually, in order to progress further, you need to be very client-facing, or you need to be kind of holding on to your clients while you're away, and those sorts of things.
What's happening with that person there?
Lynn Walters set up her own recruitment agency 15 years ago in Suffolk, when she struggled to combine travel for work and bringing up her children. She thinks the work-life balance is changing for everyone.
Best leaders I know are people that are really involved in their families, that clearly are great leaders, but they take time out of the business to think and to shape the culture of their organisation. And therefore, the environment, if you think in the 80s and the 90s when I was starting out in my career, then it was very much expected of that, the behaviour that was required if you wanted to achieve senior leadership roles. Whereas now, I think there's definitely a shift, and it's how far we're through that journey at the moment, which is saying, actually, it's not about the people that work the hardest and work the longest, but it's kind of creating those cultures where people can bring themselves and they can balance all aspects of their work and their life.
Attitudes and practices are changing, but it's a slow process. Tomorrow we'll look at how some businesses are actively recruiting more women into the boardroom. Kate Prout, ITV News.